and we will be hearing about the graveyards, a public space for the blacksmiths or.
Thank you, Jenny.
And stay next to the table. Thank
How are you guys doing? You got another 20 minutes in you? Yeah? Yeah, how are we doing with the schedule, by the way, Jenny? Are we ahead or behind? We're on time, so I'm not getting any extra 20 minutes, you know. You know, being German, I know how important agenda is actually and stay on schedule. It makes me feel home a little bit here. Yeah, let's see how I'm gonna manage this. Before I'm gonna start actually a small side story that connects me a little bit with Finland. A few years back I was asked to do a talk in one of our courses at the Gothenburg University for our, I think, second year students. And I was asked to do a talk about blacksmithing in public space. So prior to the talk I asked my students, send me some good examples of blacksmithing in public space, you know. That's actually also a question for you. I'm just trying to find here. Ilka. Good practices of blacksmithing in public space. That could be a question for you too. So I asked them the question and they sent me some examples. And you know, one of the examples that I got that I didn't count on was this one. Yes. I mean, how can you respond to that? Yes, this is actually blacksmithing in public space. But that's not what I really wanted to talk about, you know. And I also promise you I try not to be that literal on my talk today. So this is what I'm going to try to do in the next 20 minutes. I'm going to talk about graveyards and how graveyards connect to public space. Then why I'm taking the perspective of a blacksmith. And at the end I try to wrap it all up how this connects to education. And again in 20 minutes, so I'm wishing good luck to myself, if I can nail this there. All right, so let's see if we can get some of the obstacles out of the way. And I'm actually really depending on you guys, my audience, being well educated. So we're not going to go into very deep, like, you know, existential talks. But I want to start with the question, is graveyard a public space? Does anyone have any objections, any worries when I say graveyards are public spaces? You see, that's why I really enjoy working with well-educated audiences, because then we can get very quickly some of my topics out of the way, and with that, I'm very sure I can stay within my 20 minutes, Jenny, huh? Good. But then I want to lose some words about graveyards in general, which I think is important, because we see graveyards very often in a very historic context. And we got some historians here, right? Helena. Hannah. Art historian, right? Good. I have to be careful. So, you know, we're looking at graveyards. Graveyards nowadays, and, you know, I can't speak for global, but at least in the Western world, are kind of a section of our society. So maybe historically they were connected much more to like conventional belief system, like, you know, Catholicism, Christianism. But nowadays they need to open up. And I'm in close contact with graveyards, and they're trying to find, you know, new ways to offer their service to us. And they need to also work with, you know, time phenomena like diversities, integration, climate change. That's all topics that you will find within graveyards. So in a way, graveyards is kind of a section of our society today. And therefore I feel like this is a important kind of a environment also for educations, which I will pick up a little later on. All right, so now you understand why graveyards are public space. We learned that together. And why am I taking the blacksmith perspective? Well, first of all, I'm a blacksmith, now in third generation. That could be an answer, but also we have a few blacksmiths here, right? Can we raise quickly the hands? Who is a professional blacksmith here? You can leave it up, it's fine. You will become a professional blacksmith. How many more hands? 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got 5 blacksmiths here in the crowd. Unfortunately, this talk is not just for you. I knew we're just going to have 5 people here, so I'm going to try to open it up for a bigger audience, but more for you guys in a later moment. But the reason why I'm taking the blacksmith perspective is a historic reason. This image is a copper-etched painting. It's by my knowledge, it's the first visual image of forged metalwork in a graveyard context. And it's really hard to see for you guys, but in here you see a lot of forged metal pieces. And historically, of course, metal was part of the graveyard environment. We actually have evidence that it even goes further back. So this image is from 1637, if I remember it right. My note says in Finnish something, okay, interesting. But anyway, but we actually know that metal was even present in graveyards way earlier, back to the 15th century. Of course, metal wasn't the only material you found in the graveyards. There was also wood, there was stone, there was ceramics, and so on. Often it was connected to the local resources on those graveyards. But it's a fact that metal had a role within graveyards. And that's actually also a phenomenon that is worldwide. So you find metalwork even in Asia, US, North America, South America. Even in Africa you would find metalwork on graveyards. And yes, historically, Hannah, I need you there again. Historically, of course, it connects with the Christianism and when they moved out into the world to missionary people. But you actually do also find metalwork that are not connected to the standards of cross worldwide. So we know now, we learned now, forged metalwork historically was found. The situation today is this one. And this is a photo from La Paranta. Is it Rovaniemi? Okay, Rovaniemi graveyard, and I'm pretty sure I broke quite a lot of copyright laws here by just copying it out of the internet. But this actually represents a lot of graveyards in the Western world. So you'll find something similar of that in Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, Denmark, Sweden. So what you find today is mostly stone. And that's not my critique, by the way. I mean, it's interesting material. But about 80% of those stones are actually produced not where they're being mounted. These pieces are produced, mostly the biggest producers nowadays is China and India. So if you ever get to the situation where you have to order a thumbstone, a gravestone, it's very likely that the order will go to China. They will polish it there, they might even put the names on there, it will be shipped across the half globe, and then it will be installed at your graveyard. And because of this global industry being strong, they pushed out the blacksmith. There are, of course, a lot of other reasons. I usually ask, when I usually do this talk in front, mostly blacksmith, what happened, what is the reason why we got pushed out? And there are quite a lot of other reasons too. But it's not so important to find out why they have pushed us out. The much bigger question for me is, why did the blacksmiths not manage to re-establish this market? It's obviously an interesting market. I know, Antti, how many grave signs do you do a year? 1, 2, 3. Yoko? Do you do any grave signs?
Not the one every year.
Yeah.
Sometimes they come in waves.
Yeah.
Some years like 5.
Yeah. I do an average 16 to 20. No. We don't have to go in there why I do more than you guys, but what I want to say with this, it's a very interesting market for blacksmith. Economically, you know, when we talk about the scale of work, when we talk about, it's a local market. You have a graveyard in front of your workshop. Everyone has access to this market, you know. You can use locally resourced material. I mean, just the climate, the footprint we talked about is enormously small. But there's a lot of other reasons that are important that, you know, blacksmiths should maybe reclaim this. But again, today this is not my talk because the majority of you are not blacksmiths. But if you feel like this is a topic that interests you, then please come and join us at our venue that we're going to have this year in October. We're going to have a conference just around graveyards and grave crosses, and we're going to discuss, you know, how can we get back into this market? How can we find interesting artistic approaches? How can we actually challenge today the market out there and, you know, reestablish ourselves? Now that we have learned what the blacksmiths have lost, I want to actually talk about what have the rest of us lost. So, you know, if you think about the blacksmiths as a local producer, a local maker. So it's not exclusively the blacksmiths, you know, it's maybe also the carpenters, it's the stonemason that produce locally for the local market. Those are also the people that are aware of the maybe cultural identity of the space geographically. You know, the Chinese producer doesn't really know about your culture where you live. So they have that not in their focus. The local maker does. So by pushing these people out of there, we will start losing part of our culture, and we already did. Within, you know, the specific field of blacksmithing and graveyards, I have evidence that a lot of rituals and regional traditions have been lost. And that will continue. Of course, by not using the local maker, you will lose this local economy. We know about that, we heard about that. You know, that's what global industry brings to us. Climate change, we don't even have to talk about, you know, the delivery chain, transport, and so on. But for me, what's much more important, that's a little bit the research question that Tobias and myself going to try to investigate in our venue, is the innovation of new rituals. I mentioned it at the beginning, the graveyards go through continuous change. So they have to also look into the topics of today, climate change, inclusion, you know, diversity, digitalization, big topic. So these challenges is something that I feel like local makers can also support. And to expand a little bit on that, without going too deep into that, how am I doing with time, Jenny? I'm doing good. My German genes. Good. So, some of the challenges we're facing today. And I don't want to go through all of them, but, you know, technological development as maybe as an example, just to expand on that. Younger generations work very much through their mobile phones, the digital way of, you know, experiencing the world. So they do also with the mourning. Whoever has a Facebook page, you maybe have already experienced this. If one of your friends on Facebook is passing away, they will turn that page from an active page to a mourning page, like a page that remembers or reminds you of that person passed away. And every year you get a reminder now, you know, a year ago that person passed away. And that happens to me when I'm on Facebook. So I always go once a year on that page from that colleague or from that friend, and I leave my thoughts there. So it's a digital space for mourning. That's becoming bigger and bigger. I think local makers need to take that challenge in, and how can we decentralize this again and bring this digital mourning back onto the graveyard? Another example, let's say migration. Also a topic from today. We're coming more and more in a multicultural environments. So, you know, we have new needs in there. New needs that a local maker can approach and see and respond on that. So there are lots of topics that I feel like local blacksmiths could take on and not losing their own traditional knowledge in their work. One last thing I want to talk about, and I hopefully get the curve now, is the innovation and creativity. A lot of my colleagues talk about this, that this is something, you know, why they're actually doing the job, because they can be creative. They can create something new. They can create something, kind of an extension of their ego, of how they feel like they want to shape the world around us. And that's also what we feel like. Oh, where is it? That's what we believe in at our education, that grave science can do. Historically loaded topic that is interesting enough to reformulate. And that is why we, since 2015, have a course. And to this point, we ran it in the second term. So in the second term in our education, we challenge our students to look into grave science. And you know, picture that, they're mostly young people, right? We do have occasionally older people, like Auntie just started studying again, you know. But most of the times it's young people. And we challenge them with the idea of death. How do you want to mourn in the future? But it's also those people that have to work with these topics, you know, the topics of climate change. So I think it concerns them most. So since 2015, we run this project of grave markers. And at the beginning, when we established this course, we were quite questioned on that. Is this a course that should fit in an artistic education? We tried to push through it, and over the years it became our most successful course, I would say. It's something that the university recognizes in our education. It's a course that gave us the green label for sustainability. And it may be the course that helped us to set our foundation for this research we do now, today. So a lot of reasons to continue doing that. By the way, if you're interested and you want to go deeper into that, you see our website here on the side, metalartsweden.com, where you can investigate even deeper single ideas. And I don't want to go into the single ideas you're going to see here. But I have to ask, actually, Janne, you didn't participate in this course, right? You were there earlier. Yeah, but you didn't take the course. No, not this one. I think you were just a year or the 2 years before that. But we do have other students from Finland, and I don't think it's here, Artu. Is Artu here? No. So, because we've been running it for almost 10 years, we now have also evidence of students that worked with this. And then when they left us, and they had the opportunity to do grave science, they did so. So for us, this is, can you show that the rest of the team too? Look. That's so German. I love that. I got a couple. I'm almost at the end, but I can stretch things if you want to, you know. Okay, so we actually have students now that work in that field. Students that got introduced through this education, actually using it in their practice. That's for us a moment where we can say we're doing really well. We're actually succeeding with this course. If you now feel like, hey, that is an interesting topic, and have also ideas around grave markers, we're also offering, in connection to our research, a competition. So we are asking for interesting concepts. A concept in metal, maybe 3D printed or lasered, for the use of graveyards with the idea of mourning, with one of those challenges that we have to face in the future. And if you have an interesting concept, you can apply for this competition. And if you're chosen, then we have the money to help you to realize that idea. And hopefully, by the end of 26, beginning of 27, we have a range of 10 memorial signs that could help us, especially the scene of blacksmithing, to formulate the future of mourning. And with that hope, I would like to say thank you very much.
So we still have some minutes that you didn't use.
Oh, I can talk a little bit about
Yeah,
my journey here.
Now there's a good chance to ask something from
Yeah.
Heiner. We still have time.
We have two.
We are passing the mic to some.
I think it's because
No,
of
but
our
we need
online
for the-
stream.
We need it for the streaming.
Actually, not connecting rightly to your aspect here, but if I may advertise the topic, in Helsinki, Tuomiokirkko, Helsinki Cathedral, in the church crypt at the moment, we have a great exhibition with love to Ukraine. 230 crosses there, all around the world, Australia, South America, USA, Canada, all over Europe. And there are 35 more crosses waiting in Australia to be delivered here in Finland. So if you visit Helsinki at the moment, so please go and take a look. It's a marvelous exhibition there.
Mm-hmm. And actually, to expand on what Yoko just said, is that's a phenomenon amongst blacksmiths, speaking about public space. They developed an idea of integrating communities and creating and forging pieces together that will be kind of exposed in public space. So we have a kind of a history over the last 20 years where 100 blacksmiths gather up at a space, and then they forge together with society pieces that will be exposed. Speaking about public art again. Sorry, I'm trying to promote blacksmithing here for public art, but you don't seem to be impressed that much. But I'm working on it with you. Antti.
Yeah, so my question is, how often, in your experience, are people commissioning the grave crosses? And if they do they want modern pieces or traditional pieces?
Good question. I mean, how often you get asked for this is depends where you are and what kind of region. Nowadays, forged metalwork on graveyards is still very popular in southern Germany, northern Italy, the Alps, Switzerland, Romania. How often? Yeah. Knowing from me and my colleagues, I think you maybe get between 10 and 25 times that request, but in Sweden or in Finland, almost none. But the second question I think is more interesting. Today they come to me because they do not want to have a conventional sign. They come to me because they realize I'm offering not just a piece out of a catalog produced somewhere else. They understand that I'm offering them also integration in that mourning process. So I'm co-designing those grave markers together with the people. They come in and tell me about that person they have lost, their dear partner or their dear parents. And I'm trying to take these things in, and then I design something that fits that person. Because a grave marker at the end is the last visual sign we have of a human being that we loved. And I want my signs to represent that person. And the people that understand that and they need that kind of healing moment with me, they will approach me. That's something I want to discuss much more along with my colleagues on our conference, because I think that's, next to the economic aspects of grave markers, that is I think the more valuable aspects that we actually can support people in their phase of healing.
So now it's my turn.
Who is Antti here?
Yeah. So I don't have actually a question, more like a comment. So even though I'm a blacksmith, I'm as well a sculptor, and I think your words would be touch as well for the sculpting, all the sculpting scheme. So as well for all the sculptures usually traditionally has been making grave marks and so it would be development as well for all the sculptures, even for any material.
And just as a small shout out, we just had about technology, 3D and laser printing. They pushing on that market. Now all of a sudden it's also possible for people to have a concept and have it produced And I think that's okay. I think we need to compete. We can't just say because historically we were there, we have the right to be there. I think we have to reclaim it with good concepts and our qualities as a blacksmith.
Anything else? For Heiner or anybody else's topic from this morning's session? We're soon having the lunch break, but now the seminar has gotten started. There's a question.
Hi, it's not so much a question maybe, but just a parallel from KIO in Oslo. We have had some students who have been interested in learning rock cutting. And that's also a practice that previously has been very common in public art, but has kind of gone out of fashion. And in order to learn to do this, we don't have the facilities to do it at KIO. They approached a company who used to work with making public sculptures, but have now basically purely gone into gravestone making. But in the company's sort of founding principles, the artistic practice was their intention, and it was completely pushed out by this grave making industry. But slowly but surely, they're like coming back into this artistic teaching. Actually, some of the students at the metal and jewelry department at KIO. So yeah, not a question, but just a sort of parallel to your story about the effects of gravestones.
Thanks. Nils has a comment.
Yeah, one comment about the grave markers theme with the example from Estonia. That I have been thinking that in Estonia graveyard environment, majority of the forged crosses are factory made, like a small batch production, and that's also the reason why they are so plenty of, because they were affordable. How to solve this question now? I don't know. It's just like you don't have to answer. It's just like I'm wondering about it.
Neil, thank you very much, because that's the big question. How can we produce something individual to a price so we can also live of that? And that will be discussed in our conference.
Thank you.
So that's coming up.